It's 2017, so what better way to look forward than to look back? NXT has aired two-hour specials through the holiday break, so instead of covering every single little thing from them, we're going to take a look at the general state of NXT as well as some of our favorite moments from 2016. Don't miss it. It starts right now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the NXT After Show right here on AFTERBUZZ TV. I am one of your hosts here, and it's Mark B. Donica. You can find me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica. Unfortunately, Bill Hanstock cannot make it today. He is feeling rather under the weather.
He's got the mane.
He's got something.
Yeah.
There's something in that beard of his. Is a little bit of the
the mange.
The old Samson.
Yeah.
So joining me, as you can hear, is the one and only True Hobo.
Yes, at True Hobo on Twitter. I want to thank you for all of the birthday well wishes. It was a birthday.
It was definitely a birthday.
It happens the same time every year.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre. So we'd like to thank everybody who's currently watching live because the show is still going on. We got a chance to watch it a little bit early, so we missed. We tuned out right after DIY and
you can do
a
two-screen experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's with live commentary of the NXT show.
Whoa, how exciting!
Woo.
Thrilling!
So that plus last week NXT aired their 2-hour show from Osaka. So it's all matches that we know the results from, that we saw highlight packages for, and then
they already happened.
They already happened. So we're not going to talk about them in great length. I'm gonna move my chair down a bit, boop, just so that you can hear me a little better. There we go. And now I'm short. Whatever. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about a general discussion about the state of NXT, as well as some of our favorite moments, our favorite matches, our favorite performers, all sorts of folks, all sorts of amazing things that happened in NXT over this past year. I mean, it's a good way to start the year, don't you think?
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
Everybody's doing year-end stuff, trying to wrap up 2016. It was not a great year for a lot of people, but I think professionally a lot of people excelled, and it's good to look at that. It's better to, I'd say, hang on the positive than sort of dwell on the negative.
Yeah.
So let's look at the best of 2016, moving forward into 2017, so that maybe we can lay down some foundation for what's going to come in this next year.
Agreed. The direction for where it's going to go. We've got the Royal Rumble coming up in a few weeks, and that is the start of WrestleMania season. Yep. That's also a place where we get to see some NXT folk make their debut. Possibly.
No promises.
Something that, I don't know if anybody else saw the Peter Rosenberg show on the table, but they brought up if they wanted to see anybody in from NXT make a surprise debut in the Royal Rumble. And Paul Heyman put it best: don't make it a surprise. Promote these people. So that way it brings more equity to the performer, that brings more equity to NXT, so that you're like, our NXT representatives are. This
coming from the guy who ran ECW, as NXT is to WWE what ECW was to WWF.
And WWE gave ECW a chance to take over Raw.
Right.
Gave them Jerry the King Lawler, this, that, and the other thing.
A lot of cross-promotion.
So he knows how important that is for a quote-unquote smaller brand, even though this still is a part of WWE proper. Speaking to that, let's start off with sort of the state of NXT. There was a bit of a transition this year, and I think it was from the last year we ended with TakeOver London, and we didn't get a TakeOver until Dallas. So it was a 4-5 month period where it was quote unquote just TV, and it was a big build up. We got Sami Zayn return only to kind of go in between NXT and the main roster.
That was a big time.
Yeah,
really was. I think it was very important to have that time off of a, let's say, destination like a TakeOver that was in Dallas, to actually build up feuds that you're going to see.
Yeah,
it's really important to sort of use the TakeOvers as a real marker for change. You hit this and everything changes. And then you build up to the next one, you hit that and everything changes again. The way WWE uses pay-per-views is very, very confusing. Because they just sort of happen and they don't matter. Nothing really important happens because there's so many of them. It used to be that the big ones happen and it was very important. You had to see that. And I think with doing more takeovers, you take a little bit less of the importance out of them.
Sure, I can agree with that. And now that they're becoming a part of the Big Four, it's definitely making the destination of where the pay-per-views are that much more valuable. It makes that weekend that much more of an experience, even to the point where I don't remember when they announced it, but how for WrestleMania this year, instead of it being Takeover Friday, Hall of Fame Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday, it's going to be Hall of Fame Friday, Takeover Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday, so on and so forth.
This didn't realize.
So now it's for the fans, it's instead of a break before WrestleMania, it's just boom, 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 go, go, go. And then you also give the guys time. Sean mentioned it today on Xbox 12360 when we were talking about it. We were talking about WrestleMania 34, how the Hall of Fame, everybody is trying to be nice and respectful, and everybody is nice and respectful by staying through to the very end, and it's a very late night. And then they have an early call the next morning, and it could affect performances. This gives the guys an opportunity, like, oh, do I want to go to NXT? I'll just go in and say hi, and then that's your night. As opposed to you get an entire day instead of.
Although it gives those NXT boys a bit rougher of a run going into Royal Rumble.
A little bit.
If you think about it.
Depends on who. Yeah, I can see that. Depends on who shows up at the Rumble and who's on the show.
And then that transition, if you're transitioning from the takeover to WrestleMania, and you have to work that takeover to then have another match on WrestleMania Sunday, that's rough. So I guess it sort of creates more of a separation. Maybe you'll see less people pull double duty that weekend.
Maybe, and I think also for the setup, you can set it up. You can set up the arena when it comes to the Hall of Fame for the Hall of Fame, and then you don't have to take it down and then put it back up, and you just leave it up for Takeover, and then you leave it up on Sunday, then you leave it up for Raw.
Right.
And
that also depends on where everything is happening.
Everything is going to be at the MA Center.
Everything?
Except for WrestleMania. But that's Hall of Fame, that's Takeover, that's Raw.
Okay, so
and I'm pretty sure it's SmackDown.
They got to transition from Friday to Saturday pretty quick. Yeah. Sunday's a different location. Back on Monday, they get a little bit of a break between Saturday and Monday.
I mean, we're getting a little bit off topic.
Well,
so,
I mean,
but it's part of it. It's part of the whole thing.
Business part of it.
We're getting into the business part of it, and NXT has gained so much more equity as a touring brand. We've seen more, like, I don't remember the Arnold Classic, was that early 2015 or 2014? Yeah, exactly. That was Dana Brooks' debut, but that was like the first traveling show that made it on TV. And this past year, it was all over the world. It was all over the United States. All sorts of stuff.
They did the second. It must have been 2015.
Yeah,
because it was the second Arnold Classic they did last year. Which means it had to be 15 that they debuted at the Arnold Classic.
Okay, so yeah. So this past year has been huge for travel. I mean, these past 2 weeks' episodes are from Osaka and Melbourne. Yep. And moving forward for 2017, we talked about the rumor that there's the possibility that NXT just becomes a touring brand. That they have a touring team and they have a Florida team that does the house show circuit in Florida like they've been doing the past couple of years.
Right.
Does seeing how that's paid off these past few months, the West Coast tour and this other country tour.
I think they have to build up to it more. Mm-hmm. Just seeing the numbers they were able to draw from town to town. It's all about numbers. It's all about dollars and cents with a large company like this. The television that you see live, the same performers, they really don't need to have those people out as much because they're getting so much more exposure through the television show.
Sure.
So I think if they reduce the dates a bit more and publicize them further in advance, they're going to have better numbers.
Okay. I mean, it's one thing for international. I totally agree with that. And they announce them essentially as they happen. They announce the live tours on Twitter and then do a little bit of a push on TV. But speaking to our experience at Bakersfield, that was a show that had a mixture of folks that are mostly folks that are regularly on TV, with a little bit of people that we don't get to see as often, like Patrick Clark. And Roderick Strong was still sort of recovering from Austin Aries' injury because he wasn't. He was probably supposed to be on the tag circuit a little bit longer because that was in the middle of that tournament. But we got to see an amazing three-way match between Patrick Clark, Oni Lorcan, and I just said it, Roderick Strong. Yeah. Which we wouldn't have seen on TV. I don't think we will see on TV until maybe the middle or tail end of 2017, just in terms of where that talent lies.
Right. I mean, Oni is starting to get some steam. Last week he had a match in which he actually beat Cien Almas. And the match itself was a really good match for Oni Lorcan. For Cien, I'm not on board again. A lot of people say I like him so much better doing what he's doing now, and I just am looking at him going, there's basically no difference. He's doing the exact same thing. So for Oni, I'd say this is a big deal. It's a high-profile win, especially with Cien having gained more momentum since his debut. That it shows that Oni can sort of perform, and it may push him to television. A little bit more in a profile spot on television, which is what he really needs. He's just sort of been used interstitially, I wouldn't say as a job guy, but he doesn't talk. He doesn't really show what an Oni Lorcan is. He's just a guy, kind of scrappy, kind of grisly, goes in, throws himself around, messes some people up, and that's about it. But this is television. You need to actually have those moments where people are allowed to talk and develop themselves, so that when you have that development, it changes and influences what you see in the ring.
I agree with that.
It's the same stuff over and over again. Oni Lorcan needs development, and he needs to be put on television and speak to develop himself. That's what he needs.
The last thing that we heard from him was that he was going to go back to his roots. It's been months since then. He hasn't said a dang word.
That's writing for you. Sometimes it's just, there's an idea, and they go, okay, here's what we're going to do. And then they never come back around to tie up a loose end. So
that reminds me of something. Remind me my favorite loose end that got tied up when we get to our best of stuff in the second half of the show, because there's something that I absolutely loved, and I know we talked about a lot on the show as well. But NXT has always had a certain level of quality where you can always, and let me finish before you start hounding me, where you could always go, I'm going to watch NXT, I'm going to watch an hour of great television and great wrestling television. And it seems like since they've started touring, since they've started putting money on certain horses, it would not to put any, it's not talent's fault. There's been a bit of a drop off in consistent quality. There's still good matches. There's still great matches. There's still great entire shows. But you're noticing like the cracks in the paint a little bit at the farther we go, and nobody's adding a fresh coat. They're just kind of spray painting over it and hoping you don't notice.
That's what happens when you tour.
Yeah.
You take less time to create and craft, and more time just to get something out. The emphasis becomes creating, just creating. Even if it's not fantastic, when you're touring, you must create to get the product out. It's gonna go out. Every week there has to be something. And we're seeing it this week. All of this stuff is stuff that happened. Some of it arguably is not the best television, not the best matches.
Yeah.
Even tonight, there was at least one match that it was a painful exhibition to experience.
It was really unfortunate to see the quality of talent that we do have, because everybody has amazing talent, and as much as people boo Elias Sampson and as much as we give him crap, he is an amazing competitor. So it's
you hate him. You just, and everyone tonight
that's Ms.
in
Heat.
Melbourne, they just hate him. And he was singing and they wouldn't let him sing, and then he just sort of stopped and said, you know what, I love the sound of my own voice so much, I'm going to continue whether you like it or not. And that's exactly what you have to do.
Yeah, no, he is taking advantage of the fact that he's doing what wrestlers need to do, is take advantage of the crowd, and people for some reason don't like him so much, but he's turning it into winning. And I think 2017, now that he's back from his injury, he's doing a lot more physicality. He's doing he's doing a lot more performing instead of just, I'm gonna wrestle now. And I hope that he really turns the corner on it, because now that we're back to 2 brands. Now that we're back to so much more content, even 205 Live as a 3rd possible brand, which gets you onto Raw as well. I hope that they don't bleed NXT dry to the point where it loses its identity.
Right. And going back to Samson, there was a question on one of our episodes, I think the last episode that Samson was on, we're directly asked, what does Samson have to do to actually become a good competitor? And like you said, I think he's getting there.
It's a loaded question. You know?
Well, it's just the crowd doesn't understand what he's supposed to be, because he doesn't know how to define himself. Mm-hmm. And that goes to his in-ring stuff, his out-of-ring stuff. Like, so you just have to answer the basic questions. Why do you sing? Are you a singer first, and a wrestler second, or vice versa? What is your in-ring style like, and how does your brand represent your style? Mm-hmm. Where are you taking your influence from? And how does it directly correlate to who you are as a brand and a competitor? And it's little things like that he's starting to sew together.
Yeah, starting
to. I still don't understand some of his choice in movesets, doing a lot of I'd call it fancier striking, because it seems unnecessary. It's too much polish for a guy who's a drifter, for a guy who, let's say he wrestles and then he goes and he sings. Where does the training come in? Where does the MMA training come in?
Yeah.
You hit a man with a flying knee. That's too much polish.
And that
where
actually,
do you learn a thing like that?
Speaking to that, there's I highly recommend folks go check out Xbox 12360 today. We had Al Snow on. He has transitioned into more of a he trained in the B7, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So he has such a wonderful mind when it comes to character work. When it's like, all right, you're a firefighter when you do promos. You're a firefighter walking down to the ring, and then the bell rings, and now you're a wrestler. That's not, no, you have to be a firefighter all the time, is the example. Great mind, definitely go listen to that. But speaking to that, I totally agree with you. Yeah. He is starting to find himself, and like we say with all of the folks that we tend to have a little bit, and I say issue, but not really. Like when we watch him, we go, "Oh, come on, you're better than this," sort of a thing. As we see,
he's certainly got the body for it. He's got size for it.
Everything,
especially over a lot of the other, let's call him established talent coming in.
Yeah.
He's not an established guy. He's essentially a WWE made product, and he's bigger. He's got the size advantage. I think he needs to use it more.
I agree.
If he's got power, use power. But yeah, it just takes him understanding what he is, and other people investing in him to create something. And he's there. He's got the heat. Yeah. People don't like him. They just need more motivation to keep it longer. Like when he sings, he's got the heat. Mm-hmm. But when he stops, not as much. He just loses it. So just needs to keep it up.
If he started serenading people in rest holds,
right?
He just started because it gets quiet. What if he started
when he wrestled Oni
Lorcan,
when I think it was Oni Lorcan beat him or vice versa. He just left Oni in the ring and grabbed his guitar and started to sing outside, which works to a degree because
still
it
got the
shows
10 count there.
Well, that and wired. Then I think Oni Lorcan gained the advantage, and then but it's why the choice? You know, it's just ask why. Ask yourself why more.
That goes to anybody, really.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself why more. Speaking, you mentioned that a lot of this incoming talent is pre-established, whether it's this company, that company, coming in from the CWC, and also had a big boon of talent come into NXT this year. Do you think
there's a good reason for that?
Sure.
Because they're easier to work with. They're easier to write for because you don't actually have to create. You just have to go here. And usually the pre-established talent will create for themselves, so the writers don't have to do as much work.
That's helpful.
Yeah, it is, but it's a cheap tool when you're using other talent that aren't established, that don't have names. You're not creating brand recognition by using talents that you can see other places. By using exclusive talent that was created there, you're upping your brand. And you look at ECW for that. ECW is a great example. They created all their own guys. And at ECW, everybody knows it. Now you're kind of watering it down by adding guys who are established and have done other stuff for years.
Tasmaniac for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But speaking, before we get too far away from it, speaking to the pre-established talent, do you think that the huge influx is causing NXT to sort of have an identity crisis? Because it was all like, I think Finn Balor and I think NXT, I think Sami Zayn, I think NXT, I think Kevin Owens, I think NXT. Now that guys are being able to keep their names, now that guys don't have to sort of reinvent themselves, do you think that NXT loses a little bit of the edge of being a brand new WWE product?
Yes, it's no longer new.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about with writers. They're not writing anything new. They're just sort of taking a wheel that's already spinning and kind of hitching it to their own wagon. They're not creating. That's not creative.
And that's something that's a little bit unfortunate, and sort of the last vestige of that era, I'd say, is Hideo Itami, and he had a awful year because he came fresh back from an injury and then got injured again.
Yeah.
And having a great match against Drew Gulak.
Yeah.
And that was a really short one too, but I hope that for 2017, now that we have these guys, and I'm going to keep, we've got Damo that just came up, Tommy N that's coming in. I guess maybe Hideo Itami's not a good place to end, because we got Ember Moon and we got Nikki Cross as opposed to Nikki Glenn Cross. So we're getting talent in that's they're still sort of adding the WWE spin to. I hope it continues.
I want to see more guys like a Patrick Clark.
Yes,
complete reinvention from the ground up, like something in the vein of a Tyler Breeze or something like that. Somebody that this guy exists in WWE and he did not exist outside of there, and I think that's what makes it a little less special. Because these individuals that they come in, they're great performers. I'm not arguing that they aren't great. I'm just arguing that this is a less exclusive environment by including more talent that is already developed.
Yeah. Let us know what you think about the future, or the 2017 for NXT, in the comments down below. Or here's what else you can do. You can go to iTunes and leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star review, because of course the other stars don't work. And make sure to leave us a comment. It lets folks know that we're still having proper discussions about a show, instead of just going, oh, this match.
No, it's one
of my favorite things, and this year was a big change for us as well. We got the addition of Bill Handstock, who again unfortunately isn't here this week. He sends his regards to everybody. He says hi to everybody.
He loves you.
He does. He really does. And you can find him on Twitter at Sundown Motel. He's on Uprocks. He writes amazing articles. One of my favorites is they do a WCW, which is a review of a classic WCW show. But his insight with his history of being a journalist, and your insight with being a professional wrestler. I'm a schmuck. But
you're a conduit.
Yes, I speak for you, the viewer. But make sure with this change, we still haven't gotten a lot of iTunes reviews, so please leave us a review on iTunes. Also, if you could help us out, go on nxteam.spreadshirt.com. That is where we have various merchandise. There's a very popular shirt that we took down earlier this year when our friend Kathy Kelly got her new job. That should probably tell you what that shirt is already. We put it back up.
I don't see how those two things coincide.
I have no idea.
Unless you go to nxteam.spreadshirt.com.
Support your favorite broadcaster. Head over there. It would help us out a lot. And it really does, especially for her, right after debuting, seeing the guy in the crowd with a particular shirt on, just made everybody's night, made everybody's day. It lets us know that folks out there are listening, and we know you are listening, and we want to hear from you. And then, so for this second half of the show, we're going to talk about don't worry about it. We're going to talk about our favorites, what we consider the best of 2016, and we're going to be doing best rookie year. We're going to call these the teamies, the NXT awards, the teamies.
Teamies.
The teamies. Hashtag teamies.
That's teamy.
Who had, damn it, who had their best rookie year, best overall match, best tag match, best women's match, best singles match, best tag team, best women's wrestler, best singles wrestler, whole bunch of stuff. So why don't we start off with who had the best rookie year? I'm going to list off everybody that made their debut on NXT this year, and we're going to talk about them. Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode, Eric Young, Liv Morgan, Andrade Cien Almas, Austin Aries, TM61, Roderick Strong, The Authors of Pain, Oni Lorcan, Ember Moon, Nikki Cross, Dan Matha, Noe Jose, and of course Kathy Kelly. Now we're not going to. I mean, we'd both vote for Kathy if she was a part of it. But yeah. she's had an amazing year. Don't get us wrong. But in terms of physical competitors, who do you think had the best rookie year?
Now, when we were putting this list together, we said that Shinsuke Nakamura was too strong, too strong of a competitor to not win this as a whole.
Well, I think he is, but he's got so much history behind him.
Right. It's hard to argue that this is, in fact, his rookie year because of all of the steam he had coming into this from New Japan. So I think he's had a phenomenal year, but I don't think he needs the moniker of Rookie of the Year.
Because he's not a rookie.
Right. He's been doing this quite a long time. I sort of want to say that Authors of Pain have established themselves coming from nowhere and becoming such a dominant force and a force that was created in the WWE. They've made an impact, positive or negative, because after one of their most recent matches, the backlash was not so great.
No, where they killed someone, you mean?
Almost, yeah, close to it.
Yeah.
But I want to say maybe TM61 for just the absolute quality of what they brought in. Now I know they've wrestled in Japan and wrestled in the States as well and Australia, but they were somewhat less prolific than Shinsuke Nakamura. Mm-hmm. And I think that they really are fantastic, and they've been able to bring their brand to NXT and modify it to in a way that's positive.
That's it. Positively improve.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they haven't won the titles, but they've been in some very important matches, some very crucial matches, also with the Authors of Pain. They had at least 2 matches that were on television. One at TakeOver Toronto. Both of those were incredibly important. I think without the first match between them and Authors of Pain, there would not have been a second match because the first was that good. I think really they're showing that they can work with anybody and put on a quality match. And both individuals, you've got Nick Miller and you've got Shane Thorne, I think both of them excel at making each other look strong in different ways.
I would adding to that, the singles match that they had to have up in not Bakersfield, San
San Jose.
San Jose,
yes.
yeah. What, like, them supporting each other in a different way, and we only got to see them apart a few times, but it allowed us to understand what they both bring to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like your choice of TM61. Gotta go with Dan Matha, though. Kidding. Good, you know what? Get well soon, Dan. On several levels. But I gotta go. If we're sticking to the arena of guys that have some experience but aren't like former world champions or former this, former that, I think I gotta give it to No Way Jose, because he's had a hell of a time. He, even from his first appearance to his second appearance, changed a lot.
Yeah.
Hold on. Excuse my microphone. And even from his debut to where he's at now.
He's in the main event. Some nights he's main event status. You can't argue with that.
No.
He may not have gotten the most wins, but I say he's one of the fastest guys to improve and show that he can hang.
And also has that mark of WWE quality, and you can kind of see WWE all over his character.
Right.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing. He gets the people moving. He gets the people exciting.
And God forbid something be upbeat around here.
Seriously. And him tagging with Rich Swann was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm hoping for is that when he makes his transition to the main roster, that we don't, and this isn't anything on him, this is something on the crowd, because we've seen it before, that we don't have another case of Adam Rose. I would be so upset, because with Adam Rose, great competitor, a lot of great matches, a lot of great stuff, and while still a comedy character, they turned him serious. Like, and there's so many things that it's just like, oh, just give it a second. And I think
that has more to do with writers handling than with the audience necessarily. I mean, granted, the audience has a large part to do with it. If they don't latch on right away, they can look at somebody as just needing an immediate change. The audience has to have a reaction to this person immediately. And that's probably why they moved him serious. And now with Jose, I'd say it's hard to see the audience not going with it.
Well, I think another thing that we saw, another thing that we saw this year is them adding NXT to a SmackDown taping. So now instead of it just being like dark matches, they're having people on TV and TV audiences, or major TV audiences, get introduced to these people.
That helps bridge the gap. It really does.
That's why it made me think with this last one, we're going to be seeing Samoa Joe, Ty Dillinger, Asuka. Asuka's right now celebrating a 277 NXT Women's Championship reign, the longest in history. Yep. Congratulations to her. But, if she moves, she doesn't really have too many places to go, because both of the women's divisions seem really full. But it helps now that they have this big machine. They're really starting to spread it around, despite it being so quote unquote split.
Right. I mean, it's how they used to work talent into television. They'd have them work dark matches, so the audience was familiar, so that they would slowly integrate them in. Then the audiences would have a reaction instead of just sort of like showing up and expecting something to happen. It's really impossible for us to know the exact numbers of who watches NXT and how that differentiates from who watches the actual televised product. I'm sure WWE has numbers, and they're going to adjust their approach based on the differences they find, so that the people who are not watching NXT are still in some way familiar with NXT talent when they come up.
Yeah, I can see that. So best rookie year, Hobo says TM61.
Yeah.
I say No Way Jose. We'll hear from Bill. Bill left some of his choices for some of the main categories. Let's talk about, do you want to do talent or matches first?
Let's do talent.
We're still doing talent,
Yeah.
so let's go to best tag team. I think it's sort of undisputed from all of us. Bill says it. Who do you say?
Gotta be Revival.
The Revival.
Revival.
And Bill said the Revival as well. they topped WWE's list of best match. When you think of tag team wrestling, there's a name that keeps coming up this year, whether it's NXT or main roster. It's the Revival. And the best matches, let alone the best tag team matches of the year, have had the Revival in it. Even going all the way back to Roadblock before WrestleMania, where we had the Revival versus Enzo and Cass. And then at Dallas, where we had Revival versus American Alpha, and then the return match. And then Revival versus DIY. And even on this show, Riddick Moss and
Tino
Sabbatelli versus the Revival. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've never seen a more cohesive tag team. I don't think ever.
I don't think we have as cohesive of a tag team since Attitude Era.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe World's Greatest Tag Team.
Maybe. But how they use each other, how they gain advantage is absolutely brilliant. They're able to switch and use each other as tools for change.
Hashtag Twin Magic. But they're without a doubt the best tag team of the year, NXT or WWE.
Yeah,
I think it goes without saying. Let's go to best female competitor. Who do you think is the best female competitor of the year when it comes to NXT?
Do we have a list, like a complete list?
Well,
or just kind of like
if we're talking about folks that have competed this year, Bayley, Asuka, Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Nia Jax, Ember Moon, Nikki Cross. Did I say Peyton Royce?
No.
Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, Deonna Purrazzo. In terms of people that have wrestled more than once on WWE programming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the natural inclination is to gravitate towards the champion, current champion being Asuka, longest reigning champion being Asuka. But I think she lacks a certain a certain depth. Like, she sort of does the same thing.
She's still. I'm just gonna kill people.
She's the murder fly.
Yeah,
and that's fine. It's a good thing to be. It's a great brand, but I'm not sure it shows anything other than what she's capable of doing. Mm-hmm. I like somebody who's well-rounded, who can do a whole lot of stuff, and I want to sort of look at who for that. Yeah, who do you think?
Who do I say?
Yeah.
I gotta go with my girl Alexa Bliss. Like, if we look at her year as a whole, going from one of my favorite matches of the year, women's or otherwise, was the triple threat #1 contendership match between her, Nia Jax, and Carmella, because that was when, if people didn't get Alexa Bliss yet, that was it. That was the moment. That was the match where people understood what type of a competitor she is, and we've seen that evolve over this past year, into now this Harley Quinn looking, Suicide Squad repping champion. To somebody who didn't have the NXT Women's Championship, who I think would have done well with a reign. Moving on to now feuding with another never champion, Becky Lynch, for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I don't know if there has this year. I don't know if there is a female competitor who's had a better overall year from start to finish.
The only one that I could think of that almost fits the exact same mold as Alexa Bliss is Carmella.
Carmella's had a good year
for almost doing exactly what Alexa Bliss did. Almost.
Well, they had that feud for a little bit, too.
Right. Except for, coming around and Alexa finally actually grasping the brass ring on SmackDown and becoming the women's champion. Mm-hmm. For that, I would say, absolutely, this is her rookie year. But Carmella comes close when you look at everything she was able to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but are you saying Carmella?
No, I'm saying Alexa Bliss.
Okay, you're saying Alexa Bliss.
I am.
High five. Shout out Alexa. We know you watch the show every week. But it's not unanimous because our boy Bill Handstock says Bayley. And while I do say Bayley has had an amazing transition, and technically her tag match debut on the main roster was still while she was on the NXT roster with Sasha was an amazing amazing thing. And then she got a re-debut that was equally as powerful on Raw, where she officially got signed. She lost the NXT championship the NXT Women's Championship this year. Great, amazing performer.
I would say that last year was her best year.
I would say last year was Bayley's year too, as much as Sasha Banks would like.
Yeah,
Sasha's my favorite right now, male female tag team, whatever.
Yeah.
So I would agree that last year was Bayley's year. Yeah. This year, on the whole, I would say it was Alexa Bliss's year.
It's got to be Alexa.
Male singles competitor.
Yeah.
This one's very difficult.
It is
very difficult to talk about. There are people who came back, people who left.
It's like a revolving door.
A little bit
of competitors. If we could just narrow it down,
I mean, we got
it a little bit easier. Because you've got Joe and Shin, or obviously the
Joe
top.
and Shin are definitely near the top. This was a hurricane of a year for Ty Dillinger.
Yeah. Finally managed to get picked up and moved in an upward trajectory.
Like people had been telling us for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bobby Roode's debut, even though it was like halfway through the year.
A huge impact.
Huge impact.
Just enormous.
And your choice of words aren't lost on me. Eric Young. I mean, people wouldn't necessarily say Cien Almas, but Finn Balor would still count. Sami Zayn still counts.
Sami Zayn still counts?
Yeah, because he had a match against Shinsuke Nakamura at TakeOver Dallas, which is widely considered to be the match of the year.
Yeah.
In all wrestling. Like, counting New Japan.
Yeah.
Counting Impact. Counting everybody. Like, that match, and we'll talk more about that match later. But for singles competitor, I think it's hard not to go with Samoa Joe.
I mean,
really.
He was dominant. Even in loss. Mm-hmm. He never took a loss sitting down. He never rested.
No.
I mean, even if he did, he'd be right back up, causing as much chaos and damage and confusion as humanly possible.
Character work, in-ring ability, in-ring work, two-time champion, headlining all year. Bill agrees with me. Do you agree as well? Are we going Samoa Joe?
It's no one. There is basically no one to counter that argument other than Shinsuke Nakamura. And Samoa Joe's been going longer and stronger technically than Shin.
And I would also say Nakamura, while having a lot of standout performances this year, hasn't had the consistency of a Samoa Joe.
Yes. I mean, when Samoa Joe basically is the face of NXT.
Like, Shinsuke Nakamura wins the championship, and he's off TV for weeks, a month. Joe's on TV every week, beating the ever-living crap out of people.
And then
Rip Dan Matha.
And then you remember the time when he lost, and then he was like, you know what, it's okay. And then he was like really cool for like 5 minutes, and then began to destroy everyone just to throw us off.
Yeah. Definitely got to hand it to Samoa Joe. I would say male competitor of the year.
Yeah.
Agree with that. Now let's get into our matches. Let's go. Let's end with that. Let's start with best singles match of the year. And that could be if it's good enough, that could be a women's match.
Matches are hard.
Matches are hard. Matches are difficult.
Yeah. It's what does it take to have a great match? Like even a short match can be a great match. So it's hard for me to really look at those.
One that I want to put as a notable mention is Shinsuke Nakamura and Ty Dillinger from Access.
Right.
That was an awesome match.
Right.
And that was right before Ty took his turn to a little bit more of a fan friendly, but that had elements of a lot of different matches that we don't usually see on TV, let alone on NXT. So that we got our character work, we got some silly, we got some serious. It had some good length to it. It was a fine match. It's not. I mean, it's not match of the year, regardless.
But it's still like
It's something
Good
like
quality.
that.
That's my problem.
Aries Nakamura, Aries Corbin, Bobby Roode, Ty Dillinger. I mean, Shinsuke Zayn, of course.
Bobby Roode, Ty Dillinger. That's a good one.
You know what else is a good one? Samoa Joe, Finn Balor from Dallas with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the blood and the stoppage constantly.
That was
just for the cage match at Take Over the End.
Yeah.
Take Over the End, the cage match. There's a lot.
What I guess when you look at matches, it's about a match being sort of like ridiculously important, and what it takes for a match to be singularly, massively important. And you mentioned this match before, and I think it has to be the most important match. Would be Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
It had so much to it. It was a debut, and it was a quote unquote retiring. It was a farewell match as well.
Right, and if that match did not go well for Shinsuke Nakamura, he would not have had the run he had.
No.
If the audience did not singularly understand what he was from one match, it never would have come here.
From his first entrance.
Absolutely. The entrance and then his entire moveset, an introduction to exactly who this guy is in the ring. It was hands down perfect.
Yeah.
And the audience was able to understand and grasp exactly what he was going forward, and that is what set up his upward trajectory and allowed him to have the incredible year he had. No one else has had a match that is so singularly important to how their entire career in a company has gone. I think that match would that not have happened, he would not have had this year and become a multi-time NXT champion and current champion right now.
I can agree with that. And I say Shinsuke Zayn because of the match that, or because of the reason that there wasn't a match this year that made me feel the same way that. Well, I mean, this doesn't make me feel the same way that Sasha Bailey did, but from a pure match standpoint, from a pure timing, ability, taunting back and forth. They told such an amazing story for two people that have never met.
Yeah.
You know, they met in that ring and told that story, which from a behind-the-scenes standpoint is amazing. That's two professionals at the top of their game. Saw this live, which beyond thank you to Dale and Johnny and Mark for letting me sit with them. And Ty and I got home from TakeOver. Ty Matthews, who's joined us for NXT, who's joined us for CWC, Raw host.
I don't care to see him right now.
No, because he got you sick.
That's not because I don't like him.
It's not that.
As overall.
Not that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But we got home and went, we got to turn that match back on. And we got home from seeing it live, and we had to see it again. So I would say that is, I think, the best singles match of the year.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Singles, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Women's match. What do you think is the best women's match of the year? I would have to, and here's a couple. We've got Asuka Bailey 1 and 2, so that's Dallas and New York. Asuka Mickie James. I mentioned earlier Carmella Nia Alexa, which again I don't think is the best match of the year. And then from this most recent Japanese tour, Nia Jax and Asuka.
Nia Jax and Asuka, I watched that today actually. It was good. It was a little rough, but I've never seen Nia Jax look more powerful.
Awesome.
I think she has gained an incredible amount of power from being on the main roster. Mm-hmm. She hated the crowd hated her, and she beat the crap out of Asuka. It wasn't perfect, but it was mean. It was ugly. It's great. Sometimes you don't need something pretty. It just has to be impactful. That's what that was. But I wouldn't say it's the women's match of the year.
No, I don't think so either. When it comes to Asuka matches, it's hard because they're mostly, I'm going to beat you up.
Yeah.
I think the one with the most impact was TakeOver Dallas, where she won the NXT Championship for the first time. But in terms of match quality, her and Mickie at Toronto was the opposite of what Nakamura and Zayn did, I think, because it was a returning hero versus the established killer.
Right.
And you got reminded, I mean, like, not like you need a reminding of how awesome Mickie James was, but then also, I
think working with Mickie actually brought some of the best out of Asuka.
I think so too.
You have to look at who Asuka is wrestling with on a week-by-week basis. There are people who just don't have the experience level that she has.
Rest in peace, Deonna Purrazzo.
Right, she has to sort of work down to their level. That's no offense to them. They're just not there yet, and it takes time. But when you see her work with Mickie James, you get to see Asuka sort of open up. And you see much more depth and highs and lows in what she does. And that match with Mickie James brought more out of Asuka than a whole months and months worth of work, because finally she was with a peer. And truly, her run as champion has been, she's on top, and everybody else is below her.
Super below her.
And everybody knows it, except for when Mickie James came up, and all of a sudden it was like, she was staring at somebody who was on her level, and it shook her, and you got to see that. You got to see somebody so confident actually question whether or not they could hold on to it, and the audience questioned it as well.
Asuka Bailey won, set up Asuka for this dominant year, and as you mentioned, nobody could touch her.
No.
So she stayed on that level for the entire year until she had somebody meet her, and that was Mickie James. So are we both in agreement?
Yeah, it has to
Women's
be.
Match of the Year. This one's going to be a lot harder. Tag Match of the Year. This one was actually pretty easy for me. I know I keep going back to Dallas, but American Alpha Revival is such a good match. And not to insult or sort of talk down their matches with DIY, but the American Alpha Revival feud was awesome. And the tag match that they had in Dallas and at the end, and just on regular NXT TV, awesome. And Dallas just set the marker.
I still feel, for the majority, that DIY are two singles wrestlers who wrestle in a tag team. But when you look at American Alpha, that's a tag team. And they work so well and so fluidly together. That's why they just won the championships
On SmackDown.
On SmackDown.
Much congratulations.
They really are incredible. And arguably they should have been NXT tag team champions. But
Again?
right. At their final match,
Yeah.
they arguably should have
left.
taken it and left with the belts.
Yeah.
But it was not to be. But it's the belief in that puts them at the highest place right there with
Right.
yes.
Okay. So do you think that, or do you think Bill says the 2 out of 3 match from Toronto, which is a remarkable match, but I think if we're talking top Revival, them versus Cass at Roadblock was really good. I'm gonna have to stick with them at Dallas. For me.
So hard.
Very hard.
It's been a great year.
It's been an amazing year for tag team wrestling, and the Revival
Really
has been at the
good.
front of all of it.
Really, you can't think of I mean, I can at
So I
least.
think the purest of the pure for American Alpha, they're like, yeah, we're American boys, and they're all American, and you just want to see them. They get so emotional when they win and when they lose, and you're so behind them. And then there's the Revival.
Yeah.
And then it's like I think they had the best tag team rivalry this year, a little bit more than them in DIY.
Right, because the Revival showed that they could wrestle against American Alpha, but that they ultimately were lazy, and that's what a heel is.
Yeah.
He just wants to take a shortcut. He doesn't want to do all the work to get the rewards. He just wants the rewards. So they were perfect together. They were perfect
So what do you
opposite
say?
each
So
other.
what do you say for tag match?
I don't freaking know.
Okay, so while you're thinking,
I at least know the two teams,
yeah.
but I don't know.
You don't know
which
between that one and
match.
the end. I think Dallas was a little bit more memorable for me. The end show I remember less and less of, you know. So and it's not
Yeah.
it was just a show at a weird time for me, I suppose. But I'm gonna say Dallas. Bill says DIY 2 out of 3. We're running out of time, so best match. So I'd say out of those 3 matches, out of Mickie Asuka, out of Zayn Nakamura, and your unnamed tag match, best match of the year.
Yeah, I don't know. I regret a little thought. It's got to be the tag match.
For whatever the tag match is.
Yeah, because nothing has given me more education than watching the tag matches. I've watched singles matches and I go, this is a good singles match, and I can tell you why. But nothing has given me moments of pause more than watching some of these tag team matches that have been produced. They absolutely are on par with nothing.
Magic.
Absolutely.
Pure magic when it comes to tag team wrestling at NXT this year.
The match of the years are tag team
WWE
matches.
officially said that their match of the year is the 2 out of 3 falls match between Revival and DIY. It's hard for me to choose best tag match for me. I did, but there's so much out there, and I think best match, anything that the Revival touched, is match of the year for NXT. So with that, unfortunately, it brings us to the end of our teamies. Let us know who you think is the best of 2016. Use the hashtag NXTeam on Twitter, or leave comments down below or on iTunes. But until next week, where we will talk about the events that occur on NXT.
Occur with liquor.
I messed it up twice. Whole show, and I finally messed up. We'll talk about it more next week. Hopefully Bill will be returning. Hopefully he feels better. Send him some well wishes at Sundown Motel. But Hobo, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TrueHobo. There was a match that went up with me and Ray Rosas from early December that I think's a hell of a match. It's a half an hour if you got time. And we tore it up. So go watch us beat each other up. And watch Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Next taping's, I think, the 15th. Yeah. So, busy year. Trying to get it together. If you want to see me work in a town near you, go ahead and send tweets to companies with the hashtag #HireTheHobo.
Well, that is a nice jacket you're wearing.
Thank you.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's at Donica. Watch all of our wrestling programming here, Making the Way to the Ring with Lillian Garcia, Luchando con Lillian Garcia, and X-Pac 12360 with Sean Waltman. Follow all of us here at AfterBuzz TV. Leave us an iTunes review. Go to nxteam.spreadshirt.com. Support the NX team, and maybe we can come to a town near you thanks to your help. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
We're going to buzz you later.
In the new year.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.